This is a Film Stories original podcast. In here. I'm your host, Tony Black, and welcome back to I Want to Believe Minute, where we unpick the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. Today, helping me to explore minute 98, running from approximately 97 minutes as Mulder and Scully kiss, to 97 minutes 59 seconds as we see Christian on the medical bed of fellow X-Cast hosts, Sarah Blair, Kurt North, and Carl Sweeney. Okay, so now we're in absolute full wrap-up territory in terms of it really bringing the final moment of catharsis for Scully home here as she goes back to work, back to the hospital. And I think this final scene, couple of scenes essentially, really underscores just how much of a film this is for Scully, you know, and I think that's something they talk about on the commentary actually, about how, or I've heard, or it might have been the commentary, it might have been in previous minutes actually, the two are blurring. But I'd heard the point made that obviously Fight the Future is a bit more of a Mulder story, whereas this is much more of a Scully story. And I think that's absolutely true. And actually having the final moments be her cathartic going back to work, facing down, you know, the skepticism of Father Ybarra and Christian's parents, which is what we see in this minute particularly, is really underscores that, I think, doesn't it? That this story is very much Scully's. It's very much Scully's story, very much Scully's movie in that way.
It is, and I really like this minute, this end sequence to the movie now, because I think it's not just the people you mentioned. It's the woman she walks past in the corridor as well that glances at her. Is I think the woman who, I think Kurt and Sarah and I discussed this. It's the woman that Chris Carter called a Picasso-like woman, I think, on the commentary.
That's the one.
Which I'm not sure if there's any artist you want to be kind of compared to. Do you want to be called a Picasso-like woman? I suppose it's better than being called like a Jackson Pollock-like woman or something. But no, I really like it that she's walking past her. She's walking past Father Ybarra and the parents. So past all these people who've objected to what she was saying earlier in the movie, basically, and I think the fact that she has to sort of do this walk, it's almost like a gauntlet or something. She's walking past all these people who, it kind of demonstrates her strength of resolve, what she's been up against, and it's kind of building up to the moment, which we're going to come on to in the next minute, where there's a sense of resolution finally. But it's well put together here, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I mentioned it in my minutes as well, where you get this build up right through the whole of the film, where you do get elements of that woman that you were talking about, that you do see Ybarra, you do see the parents. There's this added pressure time and time again. I think when de Courtenay dies and Mulder and Scully have the conversation, you get the nuns going past, and then you get the end in the following minute, I think, from this one, where you see the nuns by the window. You do feel that there's that ongoing significant pressure, and this is like the pressure point at which everything's going to crescendo together. And I think it works really effectively to, over the course of the film, to get to this point, and you feel that, like you say, gauntlet, you feel that pressure on Scully, and it's all about her resolve and what she's going to do in the next few minutes. And I think it's just a wonderful part of the film, really do.
Yeah, I think that the music is tremendous as well. I think in this, it's very. I know we talked about that in previous couple of minutes, but it's very. It feels like an exhale, really, the music here from Mark Snow in this minute and the next one, the final minute to come. There's just something about it that's really, it's really emotional, actually. And I think it complements what we're seeing on screen really well. You know, I can't quite explain it, but I think it's some of the nicest music in the film, you know, off the back of the romantic melody and, you know, that scene. There's just something very conclusive about it all, the way he scores this, which I really appreciate, in a different way to, you know, Fight the Future, which ended with that very rousing, you know, mythic sort of music that when you went to Tunisia and you saw Strughold and the Smoking Man. That was very different. There was an ominous sense that this isn't over in that film, whereas actually in this it scored a little bit like this is an ending of sorts, and it makes me wonder if it wasn't all sort of in a weird way planned like that to function as a kind of ending to the X-Files. And what's weird is that it doesn't seem the normal traditional kind of ending that a show or a franchise like this should have, but in a way maybe this is the best ending they ever did.
It is the best ending they've ever did.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it is the best ending they ever did.
They're all at peace. Yeah, they're all sort of at peace with everything. Mulder's sort of rediscovered his verve. They're together as a pair, both professionally and emotionally and romantically. And she's in a really rewarding profession and career where she's reconciling her faith. I mean, that's great, actually. When you compare it to how The Truth ends and how then My Struggle 4 ends, which I'm very looking forward to hearing you guys talk about.
I'm not.
Yeah, in coming times. I'm fascinated to see where that's going to be revisited. I mean, would you guys agree?
Well, just on My Struggle 4, we recently had a drinking session where we watched all the struggles back to back, and Kurt on My Struggle 4 completely had a meltdown. So we're going to try and recreate that distilled anger when we get there on the podcast, if we can, because it was
something to behold.
Yeah. Like when Bruce Banner turns into the Incredible Hulk, it was somewhat akin to that. No, there is a level of harmony to all of this, and I think the music in the next minute resolves itself to become harmonious at a key moment, which is kind of part of it. If you ignore the impending alien takeover of the Earth coming in a few years, yeah, that's like the dangling thread, I suppose. But everything you said about like the position they find themselves in at the end of this movie, I think works really well. And yeah, had there never been another X-Files story after this, it would have been one that I came back to and reappraised, I think. Because I think this is the kind of ending where in 2008, I was definitely at that point feeling a bit underwhelmed at the end of the film. But I've come to like it much, much more in more recent viewings over the years. And I think it works really, really well, yeah.
It is the most satisfying. It is the one with the most, I guess, closure, so to say.
Yeah, but it also does exactly what I always like in shows, is that it does leave it open. There's loads of closure in it, but it leaves you to think they can move on now and do whatever they want to do, and you can speculate about what they do. There's no final, this is what's happened, it's gone to here. It's very kind of delivered in a very straight way. This is kind of like, all right, we're leaving them in a nice place. Mm-hmm. And I feel that is why I think it is the best ending, because Existence is probably the closest one after that. Potentially Requiem's a really interesting one for me, which is kind of similar, but obviously you've got Mulder disappeared. But I do think this one is by far the best, without a doubt. And I think, as I say, Existence is probably second and Requiem's third for me. So
My Struggle 4 is way down the bottom for you, Kurt.
My Struggle 4, yeah. I mean, I can't... that was what my anger was like, and we'll talk about that in My Struggle 4, but my anger was like, and I think you referenced it on when you did the original thing, that I wasn't very happy at the time. And all those emotions came back. Yeah. So...
Did they ever?
I mean, this...
Did they ever?
Yeah. This ending for I Want to Believe Minute is a fan fiction writer's dream. Because, like you said, Kurt, we get to just imagine anything we want to imagine, because they're left in this place of, it could be anything. So they could go on more cases. They could just be happy and live their lives, whatever. It's great. So many possibilities.
Yeah. And I would never have thought that, like you said, Carl, I would never have thought that way back in 2008, because the show, what I wanted more, at that point, like we all did, we wanted that resolution to the myth arc back then. It was still relatively close to the original series running, and we wanted movies and we wanted the sense. It felt like it was too soon, but now looking back, now we're at the point where the chances of us having another TV series, let alone movie, with David and Gillian are practically non-existent, I think, realistically at this point in the way they used to be. It's different. You look on it differently now with that hindsight, and it is really impactful in that way. But let's just put a slight pin in this just for a sec, because we have got a little bit more to go in the next minute in terms of actually what we see in that minute as part of the wrap up. But before we get to that, before we move on and get into that scene, one thing that I thought was quite fun, when Scully obviously goes into the the medical bay where Christian is, Chris Carter talks about on the commentary about how apart from Gillian, there was only one other actor in that scene, and everybody else were friends or family. He says at one point, he goes, "Okay, she was my accountant. She was my solicitor." It's brilliant. I love the way in this film, he just packs, like I talked in the previous a while back, where he had Babs Chula in there, who was like his sister-in-law or whatever, and like the woman who just tells jokes for like 3 hours to people. I just love the way he packs this film just full of people he knows, people he met on flights, people in his family. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's just great. He just says, "Everyone come on down, I'll find a part for you."
Aww.
That's brilliant.
Good hope for us
brilliant.
then.
Yeah, right?
I know. He is a friend of the podcast now, so
Never know. I
maybe.
mean, they had
Chris,
Aaron Mahnke on an
listening.
episode, so why not us?
Yeah, they did. They had Troy Foreman as well, who was in. He was in the background and he does the Millennium documentary stuff. He was in there. So yeah, there is hope for us yet. I think more for you, Sarah, because you're on the same continent.
It does.
That's a little bit of a head start. But
send a B unit
anyway,
to London or something, and like they did in Fight the Future, and we could just be in the B unit.
That's true. I can get to the Royal Albert Hall, Chris. If you're listening, that's fine. All right, just let me know. Sign me up, and I'll be there. But yeah, anyway, let's put a pin in this discussion. Let's come back for that final little minute before we get to the credits, and we do some wrap up. So thanks everyone for listening. As always, we'll be back for the final minute of actual movie of I Want to Believe minute 99 very soon. But until then, always remember, trust no one.